Hello again everybody, this is Bea Harper from SuperMonster.com and welcome back to another review. Blade 2 by Guillermo del Toro. I really like this movie. I really like it. But look, I could just go on and on about the phenomenal action and the special effects and all the wonderful sort of visual stuff that happens in this movie. You know, the stuff that this film is mainly praised for, and for very good reason. It is one of the best action horror films to date. It may not necessarily be the best, but is definitely on that list of which, you know, people think are really entertaining and really fulfilling sort of action/horror genre movies. And Blade 2 is that. It takes what made the first one good and just makes it better. And that is primarily due to Guillermo del Toro's acting. Yes, David S. Goyer wrote the story, and truth be told, it is, you know, very comic book, but you know, it's a comic book movie for crying out loud. But what sort of elevates the material automatically is due to del Toro's visionary talent. And I have made no secret that I absolutely love Guillermo del Toro. Now, all of his films may not necessarily be consistently brilliant, but there are some really good ones out there, and Blade 2 is definitely one of them. So what am I going to talk about rather than just go on and on about the action? Well, as with most del Toro's movies, there are so many themes and underlying meanings going on underneath them, and Blade 2 is absolutely no exception. So, from the top, here we go. Right, so first things first, the character of Blade is a very interesting individual. He may not necessarily be, you know, emotionally open to everybody, but he is not an uncaring, unfeeling individual. Yes, he's a badass, but he is not emotionally retarded, okay? He actually is a very compassionate and feeling person, but he just doesn't express it the way you and I do. He does what he does, not just out of revenge and, you know, some sort of sadistic pleasure, like when he kills the vampires that he kills, but he is also aware of the grand scale of what's at stake here. He's doing it for humanity, he's doing it for the world, because he feels more of a connection with his human side than his vampire side. And even though his vampire side is strong, and sometimes it does get the better of him, he always manages to reel himself in and remember what he is fighting for. So, also, in addition to this, even though he is a caring person, he's also very fundamentalistic. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, quite a few times in this movie, Blade uses bombs as part of his arsenal. And to me, bombs represent a sense of finality. There is no room for compromise. It's either my way or the highway. So, but throughout the film, if any of you are sort of struggling to understand like what exactly I'm referring to here, here's the basic gist of what's happening. So Blade has been reunited with Whistler, who was once a vampire, and throughout the film he's struggling as to whether or not he can trust his former mentor. Yes, he still cares very much for Whistler, but at the same time he's incredibly suspicious of him. And when a bunch of vampires come to him and say there's something worse out there than you to us vampires, like, you know, there's this new vampiric strain that's been created and is called the Reaper virus, and what it does is that it turns regular vampires into rabid, constantly hungry, feverish creatures, okay? It is a sense of torment for them. So with this Reaper virus, the vampires rationalize to Blade that even though you may think that this makes your work easier, what is going to happen when these Reapers overtake the Earth? There's only one of you and like thousands of them. So what they want Blade to do is to help them eradicate the Reaper species, because it's still in its early stages. And it's all about Blade coming to terms with the fact that his world is not something that he can control. It is not something that he can manipulate with all the bombs in the world. Like, there needs to be a sense of compromise here, and that compromise has taken the shape of Nyssa, played by Lenore Varela. So Nyssa is a vampire princess. She is royalty, she is nobility, and she is very different to the vampires that Blade is mainly used to. For one thing, she is proud of what she is, but at the same time, she is incredibly diplomatic and incredibly reasonable. So she is the liaison for Blade, if you will, between the vampire nation and the human world. And what's really compelling about this character is that she doesn't apologize for what she is. And she makes it that obvious to Blade. She's like, no, I do not feel sorry for the fact that I am a vampire. I was born this way, so I have come to peace with who and what I am. And this directly conflicts against Blade's like preconceived notions of what vampires are and his own sort of worldview. So not only is he working with his worst enemy, he's coming to understand them. He is coming to realize that his very narrow-minded and very sort of tunnel vision worldview is being challenged by this brand new element that he never even wanted to consider. So the character of Nomak is like the lead Reaper, okay? But it also turns out that he is Nissa's brother. And therein lies the whole sort of notion of the Greek tragedy, like family secrets bubbling to the surface and realizing that your family aren't the open books you originally imagined. And Nomak is played by Luke Goss, and Luke Goss in this film is just so amazing. He can emote beautifully through the makeup he's given, and the Reaper makeup is very sort of heavy and it's horrific to look at, but you can really sense the tainted humanity in Nomak. Like, he is constantly hungry and he wants revenge on his father, and it's revealed that his father is the progenitor of the Reaper virus. He is the one who made this virus in order to better the vampire species, you know, tampering with his own civilization. And that's really interesting because vampires are an abomination of the human species. So what's the next step, right? So it's kind of funny that vampires see Reapers as how vampires see us, you know, unnatural, you know, not for this earth, not worthy. And yeah, Nomak is one of my favourite vampire characters ever. Not only is he brutal, and oh boy is he brutal, but the fact of the matter is that he wants to die, but he doesn't want an inferior creature to kill him. He doesn't want what he hates to put him in the ground. He will continue to kill whoever is in his way until he gets his ways. And it's just such an awe-inspiring portrayal. It is far more effective, like, when you see it in motion. And here was the audience expecting Nomak was just going to be another sort of big bad type of character like Deacon Frost from the first movie, but in all actuality, Nomak in a sense is an anti-hero. For the most part, for every one of his brutal acts, he has a sense of purpose about him. He hates the vampire species because of what his father did to him. He has given up all of what he is because of the necessity. It's pointless for him to go back to his father because he knows he is way too far gone. And even though, you know, he's making brand new Reapers, there is a sense that he doesn't want to do it. He knows what he is doing is destructive and eventually it will be the death of him, but it is a compulsion of his. That is the way a virus works. It is opportunistic, it goes to whoever, and it is indiscriminate about who it infects and who it kills. And there are just so many really conflicting factors going on in this movie. And the dynamic between Blade and Whistler, played by Wesley Snipes and Chris Christopherson, that is also extremely fascinating. Where there is a sense of family tragedy with Nomak, Nissa and their father, there's also a sense of family tragedy with Blade and Whistler. No, they're not directly related by blood, but Whistler has known Blade since he was a child. He was the one who took Blade in, taught him about the world, gave him his skills, and, you know, let him go out there and fight this war for humanity. And even though Blade, you know, knows that the vampire virus can be extremely duplicitous, something stays his hand when he is with Whistler. he doesn't necessarily know what it is. It's either like loyalty or a sense of optimism that, you know, even though, you know, Whistler has been infected by the vampire virus, but there's something within Blade that says, no, he will overcome this because he is my mentor. He taught me everything I know. He is the strongest man I have ever come into contact with. And it's just like a son looking up to his father. You know, his son is willing his father to pull through this really dramatic and life-altering sort of occasion. And it's just, yeah. Blade 2 is far deeper than what it's given credit for. And look, it is so action-packed and is so much fun to watch with all the blood and gore. And oh my god, the vampire autopsy in this movie. The vampires actually capture a starving reaper in a trap, and they wait for this poor thing to die away. The reapers are always in a sense of you know, constant hunger. Okay, they feel the need to feed even though it just goes through their resources so quickly. So eventually this ailing reaper dies and the vampires and Blade cut it open, and Del Toro has such a preoccupation with biology and anatomy and just seeing how things work. And it's just really cool that the film took this approach. Yes, it's disgusting, but hey, that's part of its charm. But the characters and the audience come to understand the nature of the Reaper. And it also reflects the fact that, you know, when it comes to wanting to understand something, we want to be thorough about it. And when it comes to autopsies, it helps us understand how a person passed away, the circumstances, what they ate, you know, what their life was like before they died. And the Reaper autopsy is a really great feature to this movie. And it just sort of feeds into the notion that there's much to learn about the world. There was much to learn about yourself and other people. And that also comes in with how Blade's instincts start to become not necessarily broken, but bent out of shape when he realizes that his preconceived notions of vampires isn't necessarily accurate. And he finds himself, you know, gradually starting to fall for Nyssa, and it's a really sort of nice bend on the romance type of story, considering how many directions this film could have gone with that sort of relationship. I'm glad that it was kept subtle but distinct. And yeah, it's a really nice dynamic, because there's no time for sort of lovey-dovey in this movie. It's a constant case of go, 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 go. But there's always room for subtlety in this movie, you know, despite everything that's going on here. And the relationship between Blade and Nyssa is quite beautiful. And their final scene together, it is just so romantic, but it's not done with a very sort of saccharine, sickening approach sort of thing. It's bittersweet. And after all that's happened, like, Blade now has this knowledge of how vampires work. Now, that's not going to stop him from going out every night and killing vampires, but now he has a greater understanding of how this species works. So therefore, everything that transpired in this movie has informed Blade that there is more to life, that there is more to learn about this world than he originally knew. And that is a great lesson for him. So, yeah, what do I think about this movie? Well, that's pretty damn obvious. I highly recommend Blade 2 if you are either A, looking for a straight-up, awesome, fantastic, bone-crunching action movie, but also it's for those of you out there who do love their action as much as the next person, but you want something more from it. And Blade 2 provides that so damn well, and with great style. This film, as typically is with Guillermo del Toro, it is super stylish, just super beautiful to look at. It's pretty damn good. So, Blade 2, 4 out of 5. Pretty darn solid. So, in saying that, thank you once again for listening to me ramble, and as usual, I shall see you again in the next video. Bye bye for now.